So welcome back. This is Debbie with Cheyenne Wyoming Urban Gardener, and we're back looking at that romaine lettuce. And remember that I was stating that it had a little bit of brown crisping around the edges and things, and it has really changed after we did a lot of thinning on the cauliflower and got some more light in here. And now that it is cooling temperatures down, we're getting back down into the mid 80s, low 80s. Except that we've got a couple of days is coming up where it's going to be in the 90s. I think one of those is going to be 92 or 94, and one of those will be 96. And we've had a couple of days where we've been in the 90s. But for the most part, we're getting in the lower 80s and upper 80s, with temperatures falling in the evenings into the upper 50s. So getting kind of questionable on melons, and we do have some watermelon that are set on our watermelon vines, and our cucumbers are coming in now. I mean, cucumbers are a melon as well, and they really don't care for cooler temperatures in the evening. So probably everything that's in the ground that is melon wise will start suffering quite a bit, and stunt and things like that. So I'm not really looking at getting a whole lot from the melon vines, which usually happens. But I do think we will have quite a few cucumbers out of the container plants. So looking forward to that. And next season I'll be planting more cucumbers, and probably all of my cucumber vines in containers instead of putting them in ground, as well as our watermelons and cantaloupes. Our cantaloupes are just getting enormous now, and I'll show you those in just a few minutes. So anyway, collards looking great. I've actually harvested collards 3 times now from these, and still continuing to get a lot of growth out of these. I am getting a little bit of pest pressure now from the cabbage moths that were around, but the cabbage moths have mostly moved on at this point. I've seen fewer and fewer of them every day. At one point we had up to 10 that were fluttering around, and it looks like that they have mostly moved on, and you're not really seeing any of them fluttering right now. So that is a good thing. They will be gone, and I have continued to make sure I'm looking at the leaves and pulling anything that I see. I have gotten a couple of cabbage moth caterpillars off of these, and have disposed of those. So for the most part, they're doing okay. This is the cauliflower that's just is struggling for some reason with trying to put a head on, and just not really getting a whole lot of difference or changes out of it. So I think that it's just beautiful growth, lots of nice big cauliflower plants, but just not any cauliflower heads to speak of. And I'm pretty sad about that, because I do enjoy cauliflower. Anyway, getting back into the other squash plants that we have, we've got all of our dark green zucchini and zucchini plants through here, and we're getting loads of zucchinis off of those. And then we've got one yellow straight neck squash that's kind of tucked away in the middle of those. I did get a couple of straight neck squash off of that, but then we had a windstorm that came through and snapped off a couple of the yellow straight neck on the other row. And I think the other one and it was tucked away in the middle, may have received some damage as well, because I've not gotten any more yellow straight neck squash off of it. But we do have blooms, and there are little ones that are coming on. So I think it just may be taking a break or something from the windstorm. So we'll see if it catches back up. So anyway, we have beautiful plants, lots of blooms, and still some action going on. And I just pulled a zucchini off of this plant right here in the front. Nice big zucchini. And it had a chunk out of it from those magpies, I think, that were pecking at it. So one of the things you have to worry about in Wyoming is magpies, because they can completely decimate a garden if you're not careful, especially corn. Fortunately, they did not touch my corn. So these are the yellow straight neck through here, right in front of the green beans, and they're doing really well. We've got little straight neck squash coming on, but I haven't I've had a couple of days where I've missed having any yellow straight neck squash, and I think they're just taking a break, and it was because of that windstorm. Now I do see on that one yellow straight neck plant, you might be able to see in there, it's kind of hard for me to show, but there is a yellow straight neck squash that I can see down in the fronds of that. So probably cannot see it, but it will probably be ready in the next couple of days, because it's a nice size, but I like mine to get a little bit larger. Zinnias are getting ready to bloom. We've got heads on them, lots of blooms going on. And my calendula is probably going to be blooming today because we've got some of the calendula is opening up. As you can see there, I see some color. So these will probably be blooming today, tomorrow at the latest, I would think. And we've got peppers on all of the pepper plants now, even the ones that I got from the store-bought pepper and scooped out seeds on both the little lunchbox sweet peppers and also the bell peppers. So we've got peppers on every one of those. They're just a little bit smaller, but they're still coming on. Once they get set, they will still come on even if it starts getting cooler temperatures in the evening. Loads and loads and loads of peas through here. I have been picking peas, and we still have another huge amount of peas in here that I'm going to have to get in here and pick in just a few minutes. So just peas hanging everywhere through there. And then, of course, these two sunflowers. We ended up with only two. There were three in here, but then something happened to one of them. So we've got two out of this group that are left, really beginning to put on some size and getting little heads on them. So I know they're going to bloom and everything. And, of course, we have one of ours bloomed right now. Look at that gorgeous little head. Beautiful little sunflower. Anyway, it's getting a little bit older now, so it's starting to droop a little bit because it's been bloomed for several days. Unfortunately, they don't last very long. And you might be able to see a great big red curry squash hanging near the back. Just kind of hanging off of our tomato plant. I'm not real sure if you can see it or not. It gets kind of iffy when it gets out here in the sun on whether you can see it. But nice big red curry squash hanging there, and I've got red curry squash all throughout, and I just cannot keep up with it at this point. There's just so many of them. When we've got the super sauce tomatoes really putting on a lot of tomatoes now, they are starting to put a second run. They've got their nice big tomatoes on them already, and they are starting to get more tomatoes at the top. So looks like we are definitely going to have quite a bit of some tomatoes. And then there you can see another red curry squash there, and this one's pretty large as well. I've got one here. You can see that one that's taken off. It's not very large yet, but it's definitely pollinated. And then, of course, I always get for some reason, a freakish one. And that's what we have tucked down in here, is just one that is completely off color from the rest. I'm not real sure if you can see it. Oh, goodness. Maybe you'll be able to see it in there. But it's just, for some reason, we always have one on the vines. And we have several vines through here. I think we have 12 red curry plants in here. One of them just doesn't turn color. It ends up just being green and weird. But it still eats fine, and we just go ahead. And I think it has maybe a mosaic disease on that one particular one. But the whole plant doesn't have it because, of course, we've got this one that looks perfectly fine right there. And then it has others on it. It's one of the ones that's streaming all the way through to the other side and has a red curry on it that is perfectly fine. And just have one. For some reason, we always have one. So that's our one we've got this year that's going to be a little bit weird. And even this red curry that's been struggling, or sorry, not red curry, but the super sauce tomato that's been struggling right here. The other one, these are the two extra ones that I had. And I had one that's doing really, really well. And then one that was kind of struggling. And it was the smaller of all of the plants. Is now started coming out. It has gotten a nice long extra branch on it. And it has started blooming. So it will have some super sauce tomatoes on it. It's just a little bit slower than the rest. And in fact, I think I see a couple of startings of some tomatoes over there. And then let me go ahead and get this. We've got one of the red curries trying to grow up through it. So it's kind of hard with holding the phone camera. So let me see if I can get this out in there without damaging it too much, which seems like it's going to be a little bit of an issue. There we go. So just have to break a couple of those leaders off. So there we go. Got that pulled out. So this one's really beginning to pull out and see if it's going to have some super sauce tomatoes on it. And all the tomatoes are doing really, really well. I think I only have a couple of them that are dying off. And then, of course, the black creme, for some reason, they got really shaded out by the tomatillos that we got. And I don't think they're going to do anything. We've got a couple of blooms on the top and some healthy branches off of them. So maybe, I don't know. But the bottom parts of them look pretty wilted. And it's not browning, it's just wilting. So I think that it's just getting completely shaded out, like you can see here with this one. Is just really shaded out. And I think it's just dying off because it's so shaded. And I don't want to cut any of the tomatillo branches because I don't know a whole lot about them. And I don't want damage that causes them to lose any of their tomatillos they already have, because they have little tomatillos on them everywhere. You can see all the little lanterns, I call them, throughout the plants. So I guess we will not get any black creme. I would be surprised if we do. And these are the cucumbers that are planted in ground in the garden. And they have really started putting on a lot of size on the vines. And we do have some cucumbers throughout. So hopefully they will do something before it gets too cool that they just can't. But you can see likely one of the cucumbers hanging. Let me see if I can get back there. Sorry about all the bounciness. But we do have, there you go, there's a cucumber. And we've got several more throughout there. So I'm hoping that they really pull out and do something. I did have that happen last season where I got a few cucumbers towards the end of the season, when the plants just kind of figured out what they were supposed to do, I guess. But I'm not going to be planting the cucumbers in the garden anymore, because for the last 2 seasons we have really struggled with getting cucumbers in this section. Or maybe I will just move them where it's a little bit sunnier or something. They get a lot of sun here. I mean, really straight sun in this area. But it is a little off to the side, so maybe that's part of the problem. And I'll put them in direct, bright sun and see if that helps for next season. Loads and loads and loads of beans on all of the plants now. We've got runners going up from the noodle beans now, and those are the Asian beans that we have. So they are now climbing the trellis, have some blooms on them, so we may be looking forward to having some noodle beans. And I'm really hoping, I just want to try one, see how they are. And other than that, Blue Lake pole beans like crazy through here. We've got beans hanging on all of the plants, as you can see here. Just waiting for them to fill out a little bit more before I start picking them. Gorgeous plants. We always like a little beans inside of the pods, so definitely looking forward to that. And that is that cilantro that I did harvest part of this morning. And the pepper plants, I've already pulled a pepper off of these. And these are the little snacking peppers, and they're blooming and setting more peppers as we speak. And loads more red curry through here. Nice big one right here, as you can see. Got another one setting back in there, a little tiny one. And they have really overran the artichokes at this point. So I don't know if the artichokes are actually going to do anything. They should have been a lot bigger by now. So I'm not really looking forward to artichokes this season. So it probably will be next season. I'm going to move them back out into the sun, see if that helps a little bit. But normally I do have artichokes. Anyway, loads and loads and loads of vines of the red curry going on. They're hanging everywhere. Just so many in here. And then we've got 6 acorn squash in here as well that have acorn squash on them. And then these are the giant ox heart tomatoes. They are enormous. The vines are just enormous. Not a whole lot of tomatoes on them. We've got blooms going on, and I think that these just take a long, long, long season. So I will not have these again next season just because they take so long. But they are looking healthy, and I expect to have some tomatoes off of them. It's just going to be really pushing it if we get any to ripen. So I may be pulling those from the vines before they get ripe, if we have any at all. I'm really hoping that we do, because they are such beautiful plants. but we will find out. And there is the potatoes, just absolutely getting filled out and enormous. And the 7 lettuce that I had transplanted in here, doing pretty well. I had a couple of them have some damage on them, and I think it's either birds or squirrels. So it's kind of hard to have lettuce this season because we're having issues with the squirrels, and we're not allowed to shoot them in the city. So it's either going to be live trapping, or I will admit that I've had to get rid of squirrels and other methods. So anyway, beautiful watermelon vines. We've got a couple of watermelons set on these. It's really hard to find them right now, but hopefully we'll have something out of them, if anything. And then everything else looking great. The Tahitian squash, we've got a couple of Tahitian squash they have set and are about 8 to 10 inches long now. They're just still really green, just coming on in size. And the corn doing fantastic. We've got a lot of tasseling going on, so looking forward to some corn. And we have more cucumbers over in here going on. I've got a cucumber in here, so you can see that. We've got several more set on that plant. This is the cucumber that I had just pulled from, and it has a couple more that are set on it. This is the straight 8 cucumber, and cantaloupes doing fantastic. You can see that nice big one right there. Got another one set, and got some blooms off of the cantaloupe that didn't have any blooms on it. Loads of cantaloupes set on this one. We've got 3, I think, in here. And then the Minnesota midget, I think we have 3 set on it as well. You can see a nice big one right there, if you want to call them big, because they are the midget variety. And then another one there, and a couple of more in there somewhere. And then I pulled a cucumber, or actually I haven't pulled it yet. We'll be pulling it in the next couple of days from this one. You can see a cucumber hanging right there, nice big cucumber. So I'm going to give it a couple more days to get a little bit bigger. And it has a few more set on it as well. Anyway, that is the update for the garden. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want notices on new videos as they come out. And we will see you in the next one.